Ben Crump next to the money. You gotta go get it. We live. I said that about you, Ben Crump. I admire you though. Respect. Lee Mayer, shout out to you. Hope you win your race. Let's go. Yeah, y'all shocked and odd. Can y'all hear me? I can't hear myself no more. Oh man.
Justin, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I thought, bro.
All right, we are live. We are back with another.
Still can't hear you, brother.
Justin, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. But yes, we are back with another episode of Small Business Saturday podcast. And we have the America's Best attorneys on the line. We got I'm attorney Justin Camper, and I have a distinguished guest host with me today. We have attorney Buhari out of South Bend. He was just awarded Young Business Leader of the Year. So congratulations to attorney Buhari. We have attorney Ali Mayumbo Banza on the line, practicing out of Illinois. What's up, Mayumbo? Glad you're here. And then we have attorney Jacoby Whitley from the East Coast coming in, and he practices in the DC area. So glad to have you on, fellas. How you guys feeling?
Good. Real good.
Good. So yeah, for those who may be tuning in or coming in, feel free to comment. Let us know where you're from, who you are. But yeah, so we are finally back with another episode of Small Business Saturday podcast. And the focus of this podcast is to get business attorneys together to talk about different current events that's going on in the news, and to give you guys a legal aspect for small business owners, right? And so we want to make sure that small business owners actually walk away with something of value from listening to these podcasts, and you get to actually talk to a business, for business attorneys for free and get some legal advice. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This has been a topic that has been on the news very recently, and it's still in the news. I looked at it, and I talked to my other co-hosts about it, and they were down for talking about it. But it's so many different layers to this, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down what's going on, and then we're going to talk about our thoughts on it, and we're going to break down some legal knowledge about it, and then we're going to talk about what you can actually take away from this trial. So we are talking about Mr. Johnny Depp, the actor, the famous actor of the Pirates of Caribbean. He's been in part of a ton of different movies. He's a phenomenal actor. And we're going to talk about his lawsuit, right? So he's actually suing his ex-wife, Amber Heard, for $50 million for defamation. Okay. So who knows that words could have a cost to it? Well, now you know. Things that you can say can end you up in court, and someone you could potentially lose $50 million for things that you say against someone. Who would have thought? So Johnny Depp is suing his ex-wife, and she's actually countersuing him for $100 million, right? So it's interesting. So what happened was in 2016, the couple split, and when they split, there was a Amber Heard. She wrote an article with the Washington Post in 2018 where she basically described that she went through a lot of domestic violence. She never mentioned Johnny Depp's name per se, but she basically was going on about, hey, we went through a lot of domestic violence, and women need to start standing up against their abusers. And this is around the time that the Me Too movement was very, very popular. People were, Me Too, Me Too, Me Too. So, this article picked up a lot of traction, a lot of attention. So, what ended up happening was because of this article, and I guess other things that she may have said outside of this article, Johnny Depp basically lost a lot of roles. It literally almost, I guess, ended his career in a lot of ways. I haven't really seen them in much since. He was denied to be a part of the Pirates of the Caribbean. He was just kicked off the franchise, but he was the face of the franchise. I don't know how they did it without him. Multiple movies. He can show that multiple movies that he was supposed to get, they kicked him off. He had to resign because of this whole situation about him allegedly being an abuser. So I'm going to go down, do a quick timeline. In 2016, the divorce happened, and Amber Heard claims that Johnny Depp threw a phone at her and left her bruised. And she says, and I quote, "During the entirety of our relationship, Johnny Depp has been verbally and physically abusive to me. He has a short fuse, he is often paranoid, and his temper is exceptionally scary for me." She wrote that she was living in fear that Johnny will return to our house unannounced to terrorize her physically and emotionally. And so she ended up filing for a restraining order against Johnny Depp. And she won that restraining order against Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, she wanted Johnny Depp to do like a anger management classes, and she wanted to extend the protective order to their dogs, and the judge denied that part of it. But no charges were pressed against Johnny Depp. He denied attacking the actress, and then later on, they in a joint statement they announced officially their divorce. So in 2017, the divorce is finalized. And then 2018 is when she came out with this article basically saying that she's, a woman who's survived domestic abuse. In 2019, that's when Johnny Depp actually decided to sue Amber Heard for defamation, claiming that this article was just to build up positive press for her, and that she's not a victim of domestic violence. Instead, that she actually is the abuser. So he sought $50 million. And then in 2020, there was a video that came out by the Daily Mail, which basically Amber Heard is basically saying, "Yeah, I punched you, like I hit you." She's essentially saying in the video that in the audio, "Yeah, I didn't hit you." No, I think it was like, I could be wrong in this, but she was like, "Oh, I hit you. No, I punched you, but I didn't hit you," or something like that. And so later in the UK, a British newspaper called Johnny Depp a wife beater. And then Johnny Depp sues the newspaper. And, I guess this rumor begins to spread. Let's see. And then, Amber Heard is praised by many, basically saying that domestic violence abusers are silenced, and we thank the judge for allowing Amber Heard to have the courage to speak her truth. And like again, Johnny Depp was supposed to be a part of some Warner Brothers film, and he had to decline because of all these allegations that were surrounding him. And then in 2021 is when she actually countersued him for $100 million, basically saying that he's building up a campaign against her to throw her name in the dirt. And so now we are here in 2022, and April 11th is when the defamation trial began. And basically, Amber Heard is arguing that she has a right of free speech, and she was just exercising her free speech in the article. And Johnny Depp has taken the stand. He has been testifying, And basically, this whole trial has been about their past drug use. They've been reading text messages, recordings. They brought in the LA police. They brought in a psychologist who was hired to testify in court. And so, yeah, that's where we are at. So I know that was a long timeline, but I wanted to make sure that the audience had some context to the situation. So I want to just know, before we get into the legal concepts of this lawsuit, I just want to know, what are your initial thoughts about this lawsuit? We'll start off with you, Shannon.
So I'll be the first to say, I actually haven't been following it, but I have seen the blurbs. I saw the slight video of the lawyer objecting to his own questions when it was being asked. I'm always just fascinated about stuff like this. And when I say stuff like this, I mean, $50 million is a lot of money. And I think some of it could be based on money that he's missed due to these malicious statements I heard. But at the same time, it's always just fascinating when people put themselves in certain positions and then try to say they've been defamed. And I know we're going to get into what defamation means and slander and libel and all of that in a bit, but that's just from the beginning. It's always fascinating when you find a celebrity in the news for some sort of trial or something like that.
All right, thanks a lot, Shannon. Attorney Jacoby, what were your initial thoughts when you heard about what's going on? Without digging into the legal jargon of things, but just what were your initial thoughts about it?
Again, like Shannon, this was something that I did not choose to follow when I first heard about it, and got familiar with it for today's podcast. But getting familiar with it, just to piggyback off your opening, like it's an interesting case, and what it's doing, it's going to be now the go-to reference or tool resource tool to teach hearsay. Because of those clips and how that can be broken down, and they even break down out of court statement used for the truth of the matter asserted. So the world is learning hearsay through this, and also defamation. So people are realizing defamation is a real thing, right? And I don't know if you're going to parse out the definition later or whatnot, but essentially it's saying provable false things about a person and making that known to the public, right? Publishing it. Without getting into the technical definition. But yes, if you make false statements about a person, you can get sued. That's a real thing. And it's good to see that that is taking place. Now, I must say that in this, domestic violence is real. And I don't want any of my opinions or any of the panel's opinions or anything to take away from the severity and realness of domestic violence and abuse, right? And I'm not going to cast opinions or try to make any calls towards that. But I do think that this case is giving the world a course in defamation and also hearsay.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for your thoughts on that. Attorney Bonds, anything you wanted to add before we get into the legal aspect of things?
Yeah, my opinion on this at first is it's sad we have to deal with matters that deal with domestic violence. It's a serious matter in the United States and anywhere in the world. Oftentimes, women don't get to be heard. And then when they get to be heard in situations like this, we have a lot of things standing up against the person, things made by the person himself or things that have to deal with the background of the adversary. We're talking about the fame of the person. This guy is having an unusual court setting where the audience are cheering him, waiting for him to say hi, waiting for him outside. So that is a whole lot of baggage to fight against. But also, it's also about credibility here. Um, domestic violence, yes, but do you have to be credible with things that you're coming forward with? If it turns out that Miss Heard was somewhat fabricating things, then he gives another stereotype as to why some domestic violence cases are overlooked based on the perception of the person, how you present yourself, and then your credibility. So it will boil down to those two things in the end. But I'm very curious to see how it's gonna turn out.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. You brought up a lot of good points. I know we got some people chiming in. I'm just gonna say real quick, for those who are in the audience, I want to know what were your initial thoughts about this trial, just in general about this Johnny Depp trial. For those just coming in, we're talking about the Johnny Depp trial. What are your initial thoughts about it? But go ahead, Jacoby, before we move forward.
Oh yeah, I was also going to say in prep, I also noticed that this is also a good course in just trial and litigation in the two different styles. The plaintiff and the defense have very starkly different styles, and there's also a lot to glean from the strategy in those styles. So those are my highlights.
Okay, yeah, we definitely going to get into that. I want to play a real clip, and then, like I said, for all the people in the audience, I just want to know, what are your thoughts on Johnny Depp? Do you believe him? Do you believe Amber Heard? I want to know what your thoughts on that. But we're going to play this quick clip.
Roll that beautiful beam footage.
Let's see.
Those are my dreams.
All right. Okay. Sounds great. We're going to go ahead and just play a little bit of it. Can you guys hear? Can you guys hear real good? No, can't hear anything?
No.
Can you hear him talking? No. Can you guys hear anything?
Yeah.
It's low.
Oh, low.
Can you please bring up Defendant's Exhibit 638?
We're going to enter this into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. Move for the admission of this video into evidence.
We have no objection, Your Honor. All right, 638 in evidence. Thank you. Now you can publish.
Okay, I got it. Can you guys hear? Can you see or hear anything? You guys can't see or hear?
No, I can see.
I can see where he's going.
You can hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing happened. Yeah, you're right. I just woke up and you were so nice. We're not even fighting this morning. All I did was say sorry.
Did something happen? You this morning? I don't think so.
No, that's the thing.
You want to see Craig? Oh, you're crazy. You're crazy.
Have you drunk this whole thing this morning?
Oh, you got this. this going? Oh, really? Really?
You were smashing.
Do we have a date for this?
That's your house.
Illegally recorded. Do we have a date or metadata or anything like that?
Why don't we, since you have some questions about it, why don't we watch it again?
Oh, I've
Play
seen
it again,
I mean,
Joe. Okay, you know what, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. This is at your house in West Hollywood on Sweetser Avenue, correct? And that's you in the video, Mr. Depp, right?
that's correct, sir.
And you would agree that you were violent in that clip, correct?
Clearly, I was having a bad time. I don't know what it was in regard to completely at this point, since I don't know the date. But being illegally recorded by your chosen other is well, it's quite fitting with the rest of the photographs, tape recordings she made. So I thought what was most interesting is that she tried to hide it from me, and then that she laughed and smiled at the end. I thought that was the most interesting part myself. But so yes,
You didn't
I
react.
did assault a couple of cabins, but I did not touch Miss Her. As you can see, I think.
And you may have been
Okay, we can stop it
you may have
there.
been drunk in that video, correct?
All right, we can stop it there. Let's see. Okay, so and I want the audience to chime in. We're going to talk about the legal aspect of some of this, but you know, does that change? You know, seeing that video, does that change your perspective on anything moving forward? Before we get into the legal aspect, I want to know your thoughts, audience. I mean, who do you believe in this? Do you think Johnny Depp is lying? Do you think he was an abuser? Do you think that she is lying? Do you think Johnny Depp has a case? You know, I want to know your initial thoughts before we get into the law. So anybody from the panel, if you guys want to just chime in, what do you notice from that video? Does that change your perspective on anything?
No, my perspective will always remain neutral. I will not say, who has the upper hand or who was the most abusive, or just out of respect for domestic abuse in general. Personally, I'm just going to refrain from, I'm going to respect everybody's space, and I'm not going to just start calling people and labeling them. That's how we got here. That's why that is the case right now.
Right. Right. Okay. That was very Laura answer. Laura-ly answer.
Ask around. Everybody else might not give a lawyer answer. So ask around. The audience can chime in for sure. Audience, do your thing.
I think if you're introducing it to show that he may have anger issues, I think you can see clearly that he does. Right? I don't know why the video was introduced. I don't know if it was to say, I mean, because, to say that he was abusive and then introduce a video that shows him slamming cabinets. I don't know if that shows he was abusive other than maybe he had anger issues. But I would need to know like the foundation that was being laid and why the video was being introduced, right? If it was like, I think Alexandria says, if it was just to show that he throws temper tantrums, then I think, sure, that's what the video showed. But like Cobe said, that's a subject you got to tread lightly on, and I'm treading lightly right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Indeed.
So Alexandra Camper said it just looked like Johnny was throwing a temper tantrum from what I saw. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, wife. So, yeah. Okay. So, you have something else
But
you want to say, Kobe?
yeah, to piggyback off of Shannon, right? We were talking about strategy, right? And Shannon said there wasn't enough foundation for him to make a judgment. Let's talk about that. That keeps up. This might be early in the legal section,
Right.
but Mr. Depp kept asking, when was this video? When was this video? When was this video? There could have been an objection made for lack of foundation. We don't know what video
Right.
this is,
Right.
what. But that's kind of, and I'm sure we get into this later, the difference in the juxtaposition and style between the two legal teams, right? That's the clear objection. But Johnny Depp, attorney, because he was being crossed, I believe, at that point, could have objected, but they didn't because that's not their style, and they had their strategy for doing so. However, on the other hand, Ms. Heard's legal team objects heavily, and that creates different tones. But that was a good example of that in that moment. But I would highlight that, piggybacking off Shannon for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's get. Go ahead, Attorney Bonzo. Go ahead.
Well, the fundamental question as to why they introduced that video is to bring about the element of defense. In this case, the case is about defamation, and the truth, is also one of the defenses. In addition to consent and privileges, whether it is qualified or absolute. But in this particular case, now bringing that video in will have to be tailored to the statement made by Miss Heard, right, the ex-wife, as to, okay, what does this video support? Is it supporting that he was abusive? Could this reasonably show a reasonable jury that this man, on other opportunity and occasion, was abusive to support the statement she made, right? So that's one reason why they will bring in a video like this, even though he's not attacking her physically, but this could amount to some kind of mental or moral abuse, right? There can be a step, and then I'm not taking side here, but I'm just trying to point out that the video could be brought in for X, Y, and Z reason.
Okay. We got a comment from our from one of the audience members. It says that I'm not familiar with the entire case, but abuse comes in many forms from either party. As far as the recording of the abuse, most victims stay silent because people tend to define abuse by their definition. People tend not to believe the victim of the abuse. Not saying she was right for the video, but it could help to support her work. Melissa Camper Barnes says this. Thank you, Melissa, for your comment. Yeah, I think that is really interesting. I think I fall on the lines with what everybody is saying, that based off that video, it doesn't really show that he was an abuser. It shows that he was angry. He's a little erratic. He's throwing stuff around. He's obviously dealing with drugs, but it doesn't really show that he was abusing her, at least physically, from what is showing in that video. However, we're going to get into, does he actually have a case, right, for defamation, right? So we're lawyers. We're here to analyze the case. So we're going to talk about defamation. And so this is actually happening in Virginia. So this is near Attorney Whitley's area. So the definition for defamation in Virginia is that it's a publication of an actionable statement with fault on the part of the defendant. So let me break that down. It's actionable means that a statement must be a false statement of fact that harms the plaintiff representation in the community or deter others from associating with him or her. These elements of a defamation claim in Virginia are similar to general defamation across the country. So, based off of that, it seems like there might be a case there, right? So let's break that down. Was there a false statement of fact made that harmed the plaintiff's representation in the community or deterred other people from associating with him? Right.
Well, you have to look at it from this when that's the Virginia definition, of course. But in most, I mean, defamation cases, there has to be a statement which you indicated, and it has to be false. It has to be published. All right. They have to be able to prove damage. Right. Then when it comes to one other element, which is the malice part of it, it all depends on whether this is a public figure or private figure or not. And are we dealing with a libel, which is a written statement, or are we dealing with a slander? In this particular case, it could be a combination of both. She made statement, but also she wrote statements as well. She published them as well. Now, we're dealing with a public figure, so Mr. Depp has probably the four elements. The last one is the malice. Malice, which is the publication with disregard of the truth or the untruthfulness of the statement made. So here, some of the things is out here that Miss ex-wife Amber made could not be truthfully substantiated. Now, if not, then we will have into some kind of heavy damages, because in libel cases, damages are presumed. So that's why he's coming out with a $50 million case lawsuit. So I believe here that it will boil down to the malice part. Statement is there. It was made. It was published. Damages can be presumed. It was fault or recklessness to it. So yeah, that's what I believe.
Yeah, and I want to break down some of the things that you said. You brought up some really good points, but I want to throw it back to the audience. Based off of what you just heard about the definition of defamation, do you think that Johnny Depp has a case? Now, there's an exception to the rule, right? And so my uncle actually brought out a good point. So if you are a public figure, you don't have the same protections as a private person. So Johnny Depp is obviously a public figure because, and the law has a different standard for public figures, because it's like, well, people are going to talk about public figures. It's just a part of the role, right, of being a public figure. But when you are a public figure, and you have to prove, in order to win a defamation lawsuit, you got to prove that this person acted with actual malice, right? Someone who knows that the statements were false or just extremely reckless in regards to the falsity of the statements. But if this is a private person, so nobody knew who Johnny Depp was, and they're suing him, then all they have to do is prove that this person was negligent, right? Not that they intentionally did this, but that they just were just really careless about the statement that they made that hurt someone's reputation. So, and then there are some defenses to defamation that we're going to get into. But I want to know, based off of Virginia's definition of defamation, I want to go ahead and throw it to Attorney Whitley. Do you think that, based on what you just heard, that Johnny Depp has a winning lawsuit? I know you got to know the facts and everything, but just
I get it. I think it's still up in the air. And the reason why that is because and this is where the mirroring of the personality of the client and their legal team comes into play. All right, I'm about to give y'all this game. All right, pull up. All right, so right we have to prove the malice part because Johnny Depp is a public figure, right? I think that's going to be established, right? And all the other elements. He lost business, this, that, and the third. Now the falsity in this is knowingly false, okay? What they're trying to do, it looks like Ms. Heard's team, is they're trying to use the drugs and alcohol abuse and to put a link that there's always an implied domestic abuse or violence associated with drug use and alcohol abuse and use, right? So then that makes it, well, there must have been a violent environment, okay? If there's a violent environment or there's violent undertones in the environment, then to be completely knowingly false, you know, is it completely knowingly false? If you don't, like the drug abuse is kind of murky. So they're trying to murky the water to say and protect themselves and insulate themselves from saying that the statement was knowingly false. So they can be able to say, Ms. Heard experienced some levels of violence in a relationship. So when she called him an abuser, there were levels of abuse out there. So she didn't say a completely untruthful statement. And if it's not completely untruthful, then it is not knowingly false. Therefore, it's not a defamatory statement, right? Now, some people are looking at it as a clear cut with Johnny Depp, right? By saying, well, he's not an abuser, right? What we're talking about and what some of the viewers have been talking about, what are the levels of abuse? The cabinet can be, I know people that would construe the cabinet as abuse. Again, that's why I'm not getting into what is abuse and what's not, right? But let's just say that cabinet is abuse, or what? It's just murky on the level of abuse. But what Johnny Depp is going to say is, look, abuse is clear-cut physical abuse, and there was no physical abuse, and Ms. Heard knew that there was no physical abuse. They're going to try to say that she kept that makeup kit in her purse, and that she made these bruises and made it all up. And when you look at it in that narrow frame of just physical abuse, they're going to try to say it was clearly known that there was not physical abuse because she had to make it up if that was the case. And that's how you would know that there was not actual physical abuse. If you can get that clear-cut situation, then Mr. Depp's team has a higher chance. But now the mirroring thing, just so you got everybody in their space, the last thing. Ms. Heard is being labeled as over-aggressive, right? And there's videos of her cutting Johnny Depp off all the time and stuff like that. So when her attorneys do the same thing in court with all the hearsay, people start to think that she is just like her attorney. So when Johnny Depp is laid back and their team is more strategic with their objections to give the appearance of being chill and docile, then their client is going to appear that way to the jury as well. So I still think it's a 50-50 toss-up because new evidence, something could turn on the drop of a hat. But that's why I still think it's a close call, even though a lot of people would say that it's clear cut. But I still think it's time on the clock.
Man, I wish I had clues bombs. I could just boom, 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 you know.
Man, also,
really just give y'all free game. We ain't charging today, but man, that was awesome.
Attorney Whitley mentioned something important here about proving it, right? And he also mentioned Mrs. Amber attorneys and her demeanor, and then the statement being made by the attorney in defense. In the opening statement, I recall they have mentioned something about brutal injuries, right? Brutal injuries. Now, where in the world do you claim brutal injuries in a court of law without having to prove them with medical records, right? Things happen. Police was called. Okay, let's prove this right here to a level of abuse. And Mr. Whitley indicated that she could have made up some stuff here and there and stuff, and it preaches into her demeanor. On the other side, as I've stated in the beginning, it all will depend on who is going to be more credible to the reasonable juror. There have been pictures shown of Mr. Depp. of him after being in an altercation with Miss Amber, on here being bruised here, being bruised there, and things like that. So, like Mr. Whitley said, it's a difficult matchup here, but it will also come down to a point where, okay, can you prove the statement that you made? You know, can you defend the statement that you made? I know this could be, I heard of this by passing. She said, "Oh yes, you were a man. I'm a woman. I'm gonna make this statement here. They will come and get you, you know." And she made things like this. She said things like that. So if that clip is being played over and over to a juror, where is a room for fabrication on our part here? Is a high or low? So it goes from there. And again, it's a difficult matchup. So we all just chiming in.
Yeah, I think yeah, thanks for your thoughts on that. Yeah, I mean, man, it's so much here, but I want to just bring out one point that was stated. It's basically a 50-50 toss up, right? It's depending on how the facts are positioned. And all of us on this line know what makes a difference between, if there's a 50-50 toss up, what makes the audience, the jury, or the judge win, go against, one person versus the other. It's which lawyer they hired. And so I think that's one of those cases, at least one of those cases where, man, good lawyering actually, plays a huge part in, making sure that, you can actually win your case, because sometimes, the case is so clear cut, you can have, any old lawyer represent you and you got it. But sometimes the case isn't so clear cut, and having a good lawyer with a good strategy can actually help you prevail in your case. And that's why, as a business owner, if you're a business owner, having a lawyer with you can really help, with you and, just fighting against these type of claims. Now, I wanted to bring out a point of defense, right? So truth is in actually the absolute defense against defamation. So if what you're saying is true, then, or substantially true, then, that's then, there's no defamation there, right? There's some other defenses as well, but I don't want to get too deep into that. So I want to know, from an audience standpoint, after hearing, these different lawyers talk about this, what are you thinking? Do you think Johnny Depp is going to prevail in this lawsuit? Or do you think that, Johnny Depp is going to lose this lawsuit? Now, I want to get into just talking about this from a business owner aspect, right? Because we want business owners to actually learn something from this. And I think it's a lot that you can glean from this. So I want to know, I'm going to go to you, Shannon. You are a family man, right? You've been practicing law for a while. You work with all types of businesses. You got small, mid-sized, you got large businesses in your caliber. How should business owners really help themselves in a way so that their personal life don't affect their business?
So I mean, I think that's tough, but I think what I advise my clients at all times, right, that you are constantly your brand. And what does that mean? That means no matter what I do, no matter what I say, where I do it, how I do it, I'm going to be known as, I'm Shannon the attorney before I'm just Shannon, right? I mean, people see me acting up, they associate my comments. Like Cove said a little earlier, I don't want people to take my comments made during this podcast to be indicative of what my law firm stands for, right? Because I think people sometimes have a difficulty separating the person from the brand, from the business, et cetera, et cetera. But knowing that, I always advise clients, look, if you come out stumbling from a bar, you're not Shannon that got drunk that night. you're Shannon, the owner of X that decided to get drunk that night, right? So now it's a, they're the owner of is a drunk, he's an alcoholic, or you see it all the time where companies may come out and endorse a person in a company may come out and endorse a product, and now all of a sudden, the whole company has gone under because people have made I'll call it false. They crossed a bridge that really isn't there, right? They're making Attorney Justin Camper's statements on abortion, for example, out to be what the whole law firm's position or stance is on a particular thing. So I always tell them, look, you got to be careful because unfortunately we live in a society where people can't differentiate the two, right? People can't say, they're not going to look at again at Tim Cook's CEO of Apple's personal stance on X and not relate that to Apple meaning, meaning Apple endorses or doesn't endorse her. So I always advise, be careful because no matter what you do, no matter how you do it or even how you say it, somebody out there is going to correlate the two, right? And it's not going to be, again, in your individual capacity that you make the statement, but it's going to be in your capacity as that business owner, unfortunately.
And so, I want to take the question to Attorney Bonza. What impact do you think that this case is going to have on Johnny Depp's career?
This could be whether something that's gonna help him get back up after being disowned by the franchise, or something that will bury him completely. And is it encouraging for him to do this reasonably? Yes. Why? Because he just want to make sure that he vindicates his rights. Because sometimes, as we all know, things not objected to could be presumed to be admitted one way or the other. So in this case, I believe that the likelihood of success in this case for him is somewhat, from what I've seen so far, without Miss Amber having to put on her case, which starts next week. I believe the likelihood of success is leaning towards him, and they could bring him back up as an individual. And then what it will portray now and bring about wisdom to some of other folks involved in the same situation is that have proof, be careful what you say, and be able to prove what you are saying, because this may still come at you. It's synonymous to folks who just go online and put bogus comments, review on businesses. You eat something over there, and then the customer agent was not good, and you went on a tangent to write a whole paragraph making up stuff. So make sure that when you put that review on Google, you are able to substantiate that if a lawsuit like this comes at you, right? Because businesses have rights too. They give you the platform to exercise your freedom of speech. However, when that speech begins to hurt or harm someone's reputation or business reputation, yes, a corporation can come after you. So that's how I will bring this all together in the business world, and also for Mr. Depp as well. Thanks.
Yeah.
And real quick, buddy, I think to piggyback off what Chief is saying, I think that's key. And I think people sometimes think free speech means I can really say whatever. and I think the reason people do it more is because the layman, to a certain extent, doesn't bring forth more of these lawsuits, right? I've drafted and issued countless demand letters to local news articles, papers, local news stations for falsely reporting news to say, look, either you retract the statement in the same manner in which you published it. So if it was in the newspaper, you put out another article saying the last article we said needs to be corrected for the following reasons. If you put out a news blurb on the news or a video, the very next newscast, you need to turn around and say, In our prior cast, we said XYZ about John Doe or Jane Doe, and that wasn't true. Or I'm filing a defamation claim, right? So I think it's free speech is okay, right? I'm not against it. I think people need to understand now that even if it's in a joking manner, right? If you make a statement that could potentially cause or does cause harm to an individual's reputation, you could be on the hook for damages in the event they suffer damages, right? So it's three-pronged. You have to have a statement, it has to be defamatory, and you must be able to prove damages, right? So I think it is the damages piece usually tends to be the hardest piece to prove. But in the event you can show that, these defamatory statements have affected my reputation, I think it's very simple, or not very simple, but I've threatened to file defamation suits on multiple in multiple instances. And fortunately enough, they were able to come back and retract the statement. But I think people do need to understand that, yes, you have free speech. However, don't just go out saying anything you want about anybody, because will it be $50 million? No, but you cost me a $70,000 job. Well, I can come sue you for $70,000, right? You cost me a job for 130 grand, 120 grand. Well, now you're on the hook for that if I can show that it was your defamatory statements that cost me, right? Because then I can show that damages piece. So I think people really need to understand that, whether it be personal or business, just free speech is okay, but just kind of watch what you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, one thing I wanted to point out is that there is a such thing called business defamation, right? And that's when someone makes a false statement about a business that causes damage to that business reputation. So it's not always just an individual. You, as a business, you can sue someone for false statements. And so it's really important that, you are clear about what you say about a business. Attorney Bonza brought up, Google reviews and making sure that you're not just out here saying whatever you want to say. It's okay not to like a business, but you can't just say false things, right? And so I think that it's important that, business owners understand that. Attorney Buhari was talking about how, you are your brand, right? Like, it's really no clear way of separating what you do personally and, what you do in business, right? It intertwines. How you treat your wife is going to affect your business one way or the other. And your reputation as a business is one of your main assets, right? It's a value asset. And that, you as a business owner and a business as a business, your reputation can cause grave financial losses. So it's important that you understand your legal rights against people that makes false statements about you, or you not make false statements about your competitors or other people. And so I think that, this kind of ties into a lot of things that we always talk about on this show. But, there's ways that you can even contract out defamation, and you can actually put what they call a non-disparagement agreement, basically, protecting yourself, and that I'm going to sue you for, $25,000 if you come out, if you say false statements, blah blah blah. You can put this in your contracts with your employees to protect yourself from defamation. You can put other, different defamation clauses, and also it's really important to make sure that you have your intellectual property protected, right? And you have trademarks and copyrights, right? So that you can stand on it and say, hey, you're hurting my brand, when you are using X, Y, and Z, and you're saying X, Y, and Z about my brand, or you're using my, my logo or my name, and you're hurting my business, that you have a way to protect your brand and your reputation. So with all that being said, I really hope that small business owners really learn some things about this trial, and they're really paying attention, and not just fully entertainment, but they're actually grasping and taking, really good lessons from it. Attorney Willie, I want to turn it to you as we close. If you are Amber's Heard attorney, what's your strategy moving forward?
She has a counterclaim, right?
Yeah.
Well, actually, my strategy is what I said earlier. That you need to do a better job of it, right? Is you just make it apparent that there's an underlying systematic or there's a underlying consistent occurrence of abuse, right? And then make sure that it's clearly articulated that abuse comes in a spectrum and it's not just physical, and that it's verbal, it can be other acts. I know this is surprising to a lot of people, and I want to say this in closing, especially to a lot of Black people, because we internalize and normalize so much abuse, right? But to make sure that people took the abuse blinders off, right? I would make sure that it was articulated, maybe even get an expert to come in, right? And psychological expert to come in and explain the spectrum of abuse. Let the jury know that it's a real thing and that there's a real spectrum. And let the jury know that when she said or made those statements, whether written or verbal, that she made them from a place of truth. Because her truth was that abuse. She didn't necessarily say physical abuse, right? She just said abuse and that he was abusive. And on that spectrum, a lot of people are abusive, right? And abuse comes in a lot of ways. And Mr. Depp would be engulfed in that number of people, therefore justifying and supporting the truth of Ms. Heard's statement.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Attorney Willie. You really brought that out. I think it just brings out so many different things. You know, first of all, you know, her article, which kind of kicked the whole lawsuit, never mentioned Johnny Depp's name, right? And so I'm surprised that you guys brought it up, but you know, go ahead, Willie.
You don't have to, all right?
Okay.
So you don't have to mention the person's name in order for defamation to meet the elements of defamation, okay? If you speak about a person and it could be easily discernible what specific person you're talking about, you know, like that U.S. president was Black. I didn't say a name, but you kind of see what I'm saying? It's only like one of them. You know what I'm saying? That will qualify because it's easily discernible who that person is talking about, right? But if I just said a generalization, right, that all actors are bad people or something like that, that might be too broad, right, to qualify. But you don't have to say the person's name. And I think because of the timeline and people knew that they were married or whatnot or in a relationship, I think that's how you get that easily discernible without saying his name. But in my research, I saw that. So I just wanted to chime in. That's so, yeah.
Okay. Attorney Rory, it sounded like you about to say something. Do you want to respond to that?
No, I agree with Cole. And I think, again, what people have to understand is defamation takes on many aspects, right? I mean, because we didn't get into per se too much, but gossip could be defamation per se, right? I mean, defamation period. Hey, you know what? I heard Justin Camper, you know, he got so-and-so and so-and-so. Well, let's say again that so-and-so and so-and-so is some sort of incurable disease and it's not true. And it costs you a job. I mean, so I think there's many aspects. And I think, you know, here, in the event, you hold the person accountable, right? So if she's saying he's an abuser, et cetera, well, again, if we're talking about crime, well, I think that's per se.
Yeah.
So I think the malice, the negligence, I think all of that gets tossed out the window now because that's not needed in a per se claim, right? I mean, I don't have to show that in a per se claim. I just have to show that defamatory statements were untrue. And that, in some sense, is costing me. In the event my client can be persecuted for abuse against Ms. Heard, that's a crime. This is per se. This isn't just regular defamation at this libel lander. And I think if you can truly, again, show that the Pirates of the Caribbean, if you can draw the line distinctly to say, and because of these defamatory statements, I no longer shall be casted as Jack Sparrow in these movies. Well, is it a slam dunk? No. But I think, you know, that'd be the approach I take. right? You're calling my client an abuser. He should be locked up for his duties, his abuse, etc. Now, again, we put on all the evidence and it shows that it's true. You're off the hook because truth is one of the defenses. Again, the defamation. But at the end of this trial, if we can't show that your statements are true, judgment in favor of Johnny Depp, right? So, but I think, again, like Kobe said, I'm all for free speech, right? I mean, but I think you truly have to be careful about what you're repeating about a person, saying about a person or people, things, businesses, etc. And then, I always say if it's not true, think about what Justin has on a peach Izod shirt. Well, okay, but to say Justin likes men, well, I don't know. I mean, but you know what I mean. And then if I go out broadcasting it and stuff like that, not against men who like men, but I'm just saying something like that, and then it's not true. Well, that's what Chief told me, but at that point, I'm on the hook for defamation, and now I might have to pay Justin some more. So I think you have to be careful in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Attorney Bonzo, last thoughts? You're muted. You're muted, Rambo. You're muted.
This may be a blessing in disguise.
I heard you. Anyways, it's more of a question to all of us. Do you think Elon Musk should be brought in to testify in this case? And the reason why I'm asking this is because he was having a marital affair with Amber when they were married.
Allegedly, it hasn't been proven. So
Well, there's a testimony.
Chief, that could be defamation, baby.
Oh, okay. No. This is I ain't scared of this. Yes, it came out in court because she claimed that he was just filling in the space. That's the reason why she got in a relationship with him. So that's a common. And do you think he should come being because a lot of people look up to him as one great guy in this generation. Should he come through to testify and clear his name? Because the name is being brought up, or he should just lay low and then let things sort himself out.
Yeah, I don't think Elon Musk has any real value into getting involved with this. I mean, everything is not really. They're all real allegations, and it's not going to hurt his business either way. So he's a billionaire. He's on a whole nother stratosphere. He don't need to get involved in this lawsuit. It's not really going to hurt his reputation. It's not like people are going to stop buying Tesla cars because he allegedly, slept with Amber Heard. So, in some cases, for some people, some business owners, it might hurt them, but I don't think it's going to hurt Elon Musk. But I think one point I wanted to bring out before we close is just that I think it's a win-win for Johnny, and I think it's a win-win because if you look at how the public is treating this, is that they're kind of in Johnny Depp's favor, right? They're kind of like, Amber Heard was an abuser and all this other stuff. And so even if he don't necessarily win the legal lawsuit because of technicalities or because of all the things that we mentioned, I think that, he definitely has a chance of, getting his career rejuvenated. And that's something that, I'm sure that he took into consideration when he was talking to his lawyers about it, and just like, hey, maybe I can even the playing field to the public's eye, and maybe I can, even get my roles back, get my business going, because of this whole lawsuit. So, but let's hopefully he don't lose completely, and then he gets, he has to pay her $100 million, right? So, I'm sure that was something that comes into play, and I think that's something that business owners, you got to really think about when you do get into lawsuits. Really plan is to like, okay, how is this going to affect me moving forward, right? How is it going to affect me even after I win this lawsuit, or if I lose this lawsuit? How is it going to affect me moving forward? So that's all I have for today. I wanted if you guys could just give a quick roundup, like as to where people can find you, and then we're gonna go ahead and close. So we'll start with you, Shannon.
www.aaklaw.com. 574-288-1510. BUARI at aaklaw.com.
Thank you. And you're out of the South Bend area, and
licensed in the state of Indiana and the Northern and Southern District Courts in the state of Indiana.
You do everything
but
US criminal.
Actually licensed in the U.S. tax court as well. So I'm UPS, baby, looking brown to you.
And he's also the 2022 Young Business Leader of the Year. So don't forget that.
Because of that, the price went up.
Hey,
Attorney Willie, where can they find you? What you do?
I'm licensed in DC. Man, I do a lot of business law. I do some immigration. I'm working on some immigration matters now. And I also do some estate planning. And there are some, with real estate sprinkled in, there are some unique veins where all that ties together with generational wealth and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm geared towards. And I just help my clients solve problems the best I can to get the best results I can for my clients. I can be reached at 202-499-2403. My website is lawofficeofjkw.com. That's J as in Juliet, K as in kite, W as in whiskey.
Nice. Great promotion. Attorney Bonza, 30 seconds on who you are. No, make that 10 seconds. Who you are, where they can find you.
This is Attorney Bonza, out of Greater Chicago area. Can be found at www.banzalaw.com. That's MBANZA law.com. Can be reached at 872-304-0384, 872-304-0384. But I would like to close with this thing here, and it's been bothering me since the beginning.
All right, well, thank you so much, Attorney Bonza.
Hey, can I say something for the great, for God's sake? You know what I'm saying?
You knew it was coming.
Listen, man, how we didn't touch on my brother Chris Rupp? He get slapped on the stage. No, all I had to say is this now. Chris is the biggest. He should be awarded for being the biggest man of the year, right? Because what happened to him on that stage, the moment he quickly processed the interest of the public and his own interest right then and there, and then held himself not to react and kept his composure and care for the people, I think Chris is the biggest man of the world. And I believe that we should redo the whole Grammy and then award him something for that. Big shout out to you, Chris. When you come downtown Chicago, I'll be there for you. First row.
Okay. On that note, I am Attorney Justin Camper. I'm a small business attorney located in Indiana. Northwest Indiana. You can find me at JustinCamperLaw.com. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to be back with another fire episode talking about small business and something relevant in the news. Thank you all to my America's Best Attorneys guests. I really appreciate you guys being here. And thank you to the audience. We're going to end.
Well, man,